Oh, man, I love the game of golf. It was a beautiful day out here today, wasn't it, baby girl? You didn't think it was a nice day today?
Well, I am sweating all over, so no, I didn't really think it was.
Well, I mean, you got to drive the car. You got to drive the car, and it did have the hood on it, so it kept the sun off of you.
Yeah, but it had no air conditioning.
Well, okay, fair enough. So, we're going to get something to eat, right?
Of course.
Cool.
And you're obviously paying, right?
Always. Always. Man, golf is a fun sport. Hey, I drove the ball pretty well today, don't you think?
Pretty well to the far right, yeah.
But, okay, even though I went right, my iron game was really good, and I was able to fight my way out of that.
Yeah, but you hit it into the sand, and you did that quite often, might I add.
Even when I went in the sand, my chip was really tight, so I was able to get out of there and get close to the flag.
After 3 times.
You have to admit, though, my putting game was really good, and it saved me a lot of the times from all of the bad hits I had out in the fairway.
And it only took you 11 holes. Listen, until you get a good golfing game, I'm going to keep giving you shit.
I'm improving. I mean, since I've gotten started, haven't I got a lot better?
Yes, you've gotten better since your injury.
We don't have to talk about my shoulder, but I mean, that's another reason why it's coming along slowly, but, you know, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it.
Sure.
Hey, baby girl, I'm about to go hop in the shower. When I get out, we head out to the volleyball tournament, okay?
Okay. Oh, can I use my the computer?
Oh, yeah, of course, baby. Of course. Hey, baby girl.
Yeah.
Repetition breeds familiarity.
Familiarity breeds comfort. Comfort breeds complacency or success. We're going for the latter rather than the former.
All right, good deal. Handle business.
Okay.
Hey, remember you're a beast out there. Act like it.
I will.
All right.
Let me see what he got in these emails. Spam. Overdue bills. Not surprised. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. Young nigga got it bad 'cause he's broke. What is this? Sarah? Linda? Becky? Amber? Amy? Molly? Ginger? Heather? Karen? Oh, hell no. We are not having this. No, I don't want no Pancake Tuesdays. Oh, God, delete. No, I do not want your lemon bars, Karen. Oh, my dad's gonna get...
Ninja, I think you are close.
You say this every time. You say this every time. What am I close to, sir? What am I close to? What am I close to, sir?
You know, it's a Bible passage where Jesus said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will hear my voice, I will eat with him, and he can eat with me." You are there. He is knocking on the door.
Hey, Ray, listen, man. I respect you enough. At current moment, lost cause, man. Don't waste your time on me. Don't waste your time on me right now. Lost cause. Let me get a little bit older and realize my mortality, and I'll do it like everybody else do. Oh, so beautiful. Come to me.
No, I'm just saying, man. No, I just look. Even as I not, microphones pick up everything. That's all I'm gonna say. So,
you a wild boy, sir. I appreciate you, though. I appreciate you. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I think, Sluggo brought up something, and I'll follow back up when you get to the chat. But you had said something about you like the concept of rebirth. And there's actually a parallel in in Christianity. It's called being born again. It's a similar concept, but you don't die, like physically die, and have to come back as something else. It's like, excuse me, the best way to put it, the analogy is that you die to your old ways, and it's like God breaks you of the old things that perhaps had you wrapped up, and he gives you a new life, and it's the change that I was talking about. It's called being born again. Being born again. I'm sure, in your 40-some years of life, you've heard that phrase time and time again. But it's a similar concept.
I recall that phrase. You're speaking of being a born-again Christian, correct, sir?
Yep.
When someone realizes their woes, they dedicate themselves and their lives to change. They become a born-again Christian. So essentially, washing the blood, all that good stuff, correct?
That is correct.
I do get that. I've ran across born-again Christians, and it's been a good thing. There have been other times when it was aggravating. Like that person you used to kick it with, and they want to call you and tell you about how they, like this. I want to see the old version of you. But, it all I'm serious. You should have hollered at me before you saved. What's the point of this? I'm sorry. But I'm just saying that, I understand what you're talking about. But when we're speaking about that, we're talking about somebody changing their mindset and, trying to walk a straighter path. But again, hearing that, that's essentially what they're speaking of as reincarnation. Again, to me, if we're going to do fairy tales or do very improbable stories, well, I might as well go with that. I come back as whatever. You know what I'm saying? If I don't do right, maybe I come back as an animal or some bullshit. But I'm not burning in fires. That's all I'm saying. If I'm gonna pick and choose my fairy tales, let me choose something that make me feel better. I don't like the fire. Give me that version of reincarnation. Give me that, and give me another chance to get to nirvana. Rather than being stuck. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ninja, the thing is, all of your problems it always seems like it's related to what you see other people do. And I'm just asking you in all sincerity, okay, let me put it to you this, and this is what I wanted to mention to you before. I've been in the process since probably 2012 of detoxing from American Christianity. Like, I got saved in 1989. I was, 22, 23 years old.
Good God.
With a life that you're living presently in Huntsville, Alabama, apart from some things, is what I was living prior to, back before 89.
What life is that, sir?
What
life is that, sir? Hey, lack of details only help the wicked. What life is that, sir?
The love and marriage, Huntsville life. And to the chat, y'all didn't tell me that Ninja was out here living that single life. I had a conversation with Ninja earlier today, and he's sharing stuff, and he's like, life is going well.
Yes. Dope, man. Yes.
So I said, so man, am I going to see you on this love and marriage Huntsville? He's like, no, sir. Well, you know how he talks. Well, actually, there's a possibility, you know how
No, man, don't see again. See how he's giving out this misinformation. All I was saying is there's a slight chance of a camera glance if I was in one or two spots. That's all. But as far as being a cast member, 0%, sir.
I didn't say
a camera glance.
I said you might randomly show up. I already told you. Ninja got his starch jeans on. Like, hey, how you doing? And then I found out that Amy Amber came out and Look, didn't talk to him inside Starbucks, came out to the parking lot. What's been going on in 2025?
Hey man, this is an inside conversation. What the hell's going on right now? That's the inside. See how Christians do? See how they do? That's
I've been
exactly
trying that. Man, I got to get these jokes off, man.
Hey, listen, like I said, it was happenstance, but nobody would believe it. I was doing that show with the greatest, and this one of them just came out and had a casual conversation with me. But the timing was impeccable for jokes. It was impeccable. To quote 334 Bama, Amy has made an appearance.
Oh man!
Do you mind if I catch up on some of this chat, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Do you have strong opinions and you're looking for a way to express them? Are you tired of carbon copy sports radio that infests the airwaves? Do you have creative concepts and ideas that you want to share with the world? Then this is not the commercial for you. This commercial is all about
Kinko's University.
That's right. Kinko's University gets you prepared for the podcasting world when you don't have the chops for it. If you're one of the many people looking to get into podcasting, but you just don't have the skill, Kinko's University is the university for you.
I want to do a podcast, but where do I start? And what do I talk about? Kinko's University.
Don't worry. Here at Kinko's University, the first thing we teach you about is OPP. That's right. Other people's perspective. So you can always have something to talk about getting it from another source.
Podcasting looks fun, but do I really have to do all that research and show prep? Kinko's University.
Absolutely not. Here at Kinko's, we have classes like No Preparation 101, where we teach you to get around all of that pesky show prep because we know you don't have the time.
I wonder what the best time slot is to get the most listeners. Kinko's University.
Don't worry. Here at Kinko's, we have a class called Recycling Ideas 101, where you can find a time slot that works and just jump in that slot to try to make it happen for yourself.
Kinko's University. I want to come up with new content and subject matter, but I'm not that creative. Kinko's University.
You'll also take Regurgitation 101, which will help you come up with other people's subject matter that you can recycle and make your own. That's right, here at Kinko's, we teach you how to get around hard work, getting new wrinkles in your brain, and having to work hard at your craft. Come to Kinko's, where you can take these top courses with top teachers. Most people that go to Kinko's graduate with Kinko's degrees, that's right, as master copiers. Kinko's University, for the skilled impaired.
Kinko's University is not a real university and is not accredited. You don't actually learn any skills. You just learn how to mimic people who have actual skill.
Underground Railroad Show with that ninja. All aboard have the tickets ready because the train has arrived. Delayed or on time, it's time to get on board.
What's going on, fam? This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. Thank you for coming aboard. I hope you are enjoying the ride thus far. I apologize for last week. Simply put, I can keep this brief. Simply put, as I spoke about before, my mother's in town. She's been in town now for, doesn't seem like it, but 2 weeks already. She's got one more week. And just been kicking it with my mom and chilling and whatnot, just enjoying her company. So for a multitude of reasons, that's why I didn't give you a show last week. I had full intentions on doing it. It just didn't shape out that way. So my apologies, my apologies. Now, upon today, what I'm going to do is give you the same show I had ready. Again, I fully planned on giving you a show. It just didn't work out that way. Side note, for some reason, I got signed out of Twitter or X, whatever you're calling it nowadays. If somebody can post a show up on there for me, I didn't have time to. don't even think I remember my damn password, but they wanted me to sign in and all this bullshit. I didn't have time to do all that, so I let that go. So if somebody has time, you can throw that in there for me if you don't mind. All right, on today's show, I'm going to give you what I was going to give you last week. And at that point, I think it was still going to be post Colonizer Independence Day. But generally speaking, in the show before that day or after that day, I usually just like to give some type of Black History fact. But I think the last 2 or 3 years I've been on that, just speaking about the other side that they don't talk about. Obviously, speaking about how it's not our Independence Day, speaking about some of the things that were going on. And I just dive into different aspects. I did one show where I spoke about, I just came from the aspect that if it's truly all about the country's independence and the Revolutionary War and all of that, and, fathers of the country and heroes and all of that, if it was truly about that, they would mention, all of the heroes. There wouldn't be editing. There wouldn't be misinformation. There wouldn't be a slew of people left out that if not for their efforts, there would be no America, not the America that we know today. And in doing that, I spoke about several people. And really, when in doing that, I gave some details here and there. But looking into what I did is I went back and kind of looked in all the people that I talked about. And there were really a lot of things that I kind of left out because I talked about 4 or 5 people and I really didn't get into the details of their life. So I wanted to dive into one of them in particular. So this is just going to be a thing for me on Independence Day. I'll speak about the Black people that had a contribution. And this one in particular, I've mentioned them before, but I didn't take a deep dive. So I'm going to take a deep dive. And I'm just trying to make sure there's nothing else I wanted to start off with. No, everything's good. Side note, my best friend's surgery was successful. He's back on his feet and doing way better than most would at this point. Even was out, just moving normally. You wouldn't know if he did, if you weren't aware, you wouldn't know. So I don't know. What should I say? Won't he do it? Hold on, let me wait a minute. Let me first and foremost. Whoops. That isn't the one. That isn't the one. That is not the one. That isn't it. That isn't it. Here it is.
God damn anybody who doesn't glorify his work.
One more again.
God damn anybody who doesn't glorify his work.
Side note on StreamYard, they've done something with the soundboard area that makes absolutely no sense. They've taken away my ability to move sound bites. They've taken away my ability to move them, and they only let you slide them to the top, which makes absolutely no sense. I guess I'm going to have to get in here and get in the comments. I don't know why they removed that feature. That's weird. So I guess I have to start communicating with these people. Let's see if they actually care. That was a terrible move. But I lost track. But as I was saying, my boy's back up and moving. So thank you to everybody that got their prayer warrior on, put your antennas together, made the signal strong, all that good stuff. But up and moving. Shout out to my homeboy. Shout out to my best friend, rather. Shout out to Mac Feezy, who's been busy. I think he was actually serious about picking up the other language. That's what I was actually referring to. But and shout out to my man Sluggo, who was on vacay. I won't disclose your location, even though you put it in the chat room, sir. Enjoy and thank you for the check-in. I appreciate it. All right, man. Thank y'all for coming aboard. Let's get into it. Once again, been enjoying my mom's company, spoiling her the best I can. And that's been cool. Now let's get into it. This is what I was going to do around the 4th. I think my show would have been before. Was it slightly after? It was before. It would have been before. But again, didn't get around to it. And I tried to get to it, Thursday, but Every day there was always something. There was always something. Had side yards to get, had things to do. So there was always something going on. So in that regard, let's get into it today. Title of today's show is The Conflicted Hero. The Conflicted Hero. And when I'm speaking about the conflicted hero, I'm speaking about James Armisted Lafayette. I spoke about James Armisted Lafayette when I spoke about the black heroes in the Revolutionary War that if not for their contributions, then the so-called patriots would have lost. And I spoke briefly on how the British were the first to offer black people emancipation or freedom if they came and fought for them on the other side. So it was twofold. You could get your freedom and you could go back and abuse your captors and former abusers and so-called owners. So it was a no-lose proposition for black people. So I spoke briefly on how if you were around at that time, you would have kicked it with the whites that had the different accents and the nice red jackets. If t-shirts were popular, your shit would have said, "Go Brits, go." I really think at that time, I doubt you would have been pulling for America. But again, let's keep it in perspective. But that's as far as I went with it. I didn't dig into it. And I talked about how James Armisted Lafayette was a double agent. But let's kind of dig into that a little bit more. And I'll speak about and talk about why I feel or why that James Armisted Lafayette is a conflicted hero or the conflicted hero. And again, getting used to this platform, I can't play my little intro. But an unknown thing we spoke about with the Revolutionary War is that without the contributions of black people, they would have lost. And but I don't want to get ahead. But just looking into James Armisted Lafayette a little bit deeper and just diving in him in particular instead of trying to spread it out amongst 4 or 5 people and just giving a couple of notes about him. One important thing is that he was born a slave. I think that's important, and it'll come into play as we get into, different aspects of his life. But James Armisted Lafayette was born a slave. And, like the majority of the time, as it is in most cases, there aren't, secure records. He was born here. It's shaky. But, 1748 to 1830 is his lifespan, allegedly, because those records are shaky, as they've always been. I found it interesting the way that this individual chose to word this. And I said the same thing, but not in this not in this way that takes all the sting out of the statement. It is the pinnacle of irony that the United States was born from a war for independence that depended in part on people who were enslaved. Interesting wording. Very clever. Very clever.
That ain't true. That's not true.
To say in part is to minimize the contribution. And again, very clever with words. 5,000 to 8,000 free and enslaved black men fought on the side of the colonists. Now that raises an entire gambit of questions, but I'll get into those shortly. And again, you can't judge people in that time. It's do you want to stick with the whites or do you want to go with these other whites? The information you get, you can only get if it's passed to you from other plantations, other people, other free people, other so-called freedom fighters, other black people that were free, some that were enslaved. That's the only way you really got information, word of mouth for the most part. You probably weren't privy to the newspaper and knowing what was really going on. You only knew what you were fed. So I don't know what their mentality was, what they were being told, what they were threatened with. There were so many ways they could have enticed our ancestors to be a part of their fight. Could have spoke about them as if there was no choice. And who knows? It's a rough position to be in. Do I want to stick with the whites that I know? Or do I want to fuck with these whites with the interesting accent and the nice red jackets? I just don't know. It's hard to say. There were about 230,000 militiamen for the colonists. Black soldiers made up 3.5% of the troops. And again, that, numbers wise, you're looking at that like, okay, small contribution, a little thing. Let's dig into it a little bit deeper, why they had black soldiers in the first place. Revolutionary War started 1775 on June 14th. They made George Washington the commander-in-chief. And immediately, they were reluctant. Reluctance is a nice word. They were against free and enslaved black people being in the military. And that makes sense. You've been treating them quite horribly. You probably don't want to give them weapons. You would think so. You would think that's the case. I mean, George Washington had slaves. As a matter of fact, he ripped the teeth out of his slave's mouth and he ripped the teeth out of his slave's mouth. And, because he didn't have any. As children, they told us he had wooden teeth. No, he didn't. He just went out there and said, let's get some pliers. And he has nice teeth. Let's get those. And yanked out the ones that he needed. I find it very hard to believe that he yanked out a few and said, that's enough. Let's use wood for the rest. I do not believe that's the case.
That ain't true. That's not true.
I doubt he was merciful.
That ain't true. That's not true.
You probably don't want to give a weapon to somebody that you did that to on a casual Tuesday. But there were some black people in the armed forces initially. It actually began April 19th, 1775, And in less than 2 months, George Washington declared that no black people could be in the military. Because again, they were worried about getting what they deserved. And rightfully so if you're them and thinking about it from that strategic standpoint. The British forces did something that was brilliant, and I think this would have been such an interesting conversation in the classroom if we were taught it. And it brings up a conflict, and I'll get into said conflict. When you talk about the black people that fought, for their captors, their captors who were in these 13 colonies at the time. Governor of Virginia, I think at the time, a British motherfucker named John Murray. He was the 4th Earl of Dunmore. 4th Earl of Dunmore. He enacted a brilliant tactic, the Dunmore Proclamation. The Dunmore Proclamation. It declared that any slave could get emancipation if they ran away, got over to the British side. They would, be placed into the army and be given freedom for fighting. Now, this made all the sense in the world because, one, they were on foreign soil and they needed more people. And they probably knew about the higher skill set and knew what that would do. Secondly, and this is a very brilliant tactic that they didn't talk about, the other reason that he did this is because he was trying to enact an all-out slave revolt, which makes sense. And I find it hard to believe, we already know that was happening anyway, but I find it hard to believe that didn't cause a lot of bloodshed that they don't mention. And again, there are little things you can put together to kind of solidify said bloodshed and the fact that it actually happened. Initially, around 800 to 1,000 enslaved people in Virginia joined the Loyalist forces or the Brits. After the Dunmore Proclamation, 100,000 plus enslaved people, 100,000 plus of our ancestors ran away, probably murdered a lot of motherfuckers, and deservingly so, and made their way to join the British forces. It is because of the Dunmore Proclamation that this country was forced to use black people. Because initially they didn't want to do it because they were treating them like shit. They were treating our ancestors like shit. I don't want to get this motherfucker gun. He's going to do to me what I deserve. I don't want to do that. They did that because the war went on a lot longer than they thought it was going to go on. By the time 1778 came around, they were low on people. But they don't put the shit together. They were low on people because those 100,000 plus ninjas that went to the other side knew the terrain, knew the situation. Imagine if that's you. Hey, what's going on, Cornwallis? Hey, what's happening? What's happening? Hey, check it out. The plantation I just left, the Johnson plantation, they have a lot of supplies over there. I actually think we should turn around and head that way right now. That's how we spoke. It's not the bullshit they put in the movies. We had a lot better, we articulated ourselves a lot better than they did. If you went back, it's not that regal shit they put in the movies. I'm George Washington and I declare. Motherfuckers will mumble mouth, but I digress. Just put yourself in that situation. Of course, I want to get away from these motherfuckers. Hey, what's going on, Cornwallis? Check it out. Check it out. The Johnson plantation, I think it would be a great idea. I'm just suggesting that we go get them right now. They're vulnerable. We just left. A lot of motherfuckers dead right now. They're in a bad way. We could go they have supplies. It's a great point. It's a great strategic area to be in, and they have supplies. We can do it. You got the guns and shit. I'm sure a lot of that went on, but again, you can't really put that in history and teach the bullshit that they taught us. So it brings up a huge conflict. Again, as I spoke about James Armisted Lafayette, who we're going to get into shortly. He was born a slave, as were a lot of them as were a lot of our ancestors at the time. They didn't have a sense of history. Their parents. You got to understand, they separated families. They killed motherfuckers. They mutilated people in front of everybody as a lesson. Buck breaking, breeding houses, breeding farms. There were so many things that happened that you have to make a slave. So our ancestors were subjugated to so much fucking physical, mental, and mental torture that I can't really judge them, but I'm just going to speak about it as best I can. So I just want to give that disclaimer. I understand, but I'm just going to speak about it practically. It's hard to understand that mentality, but there were 5,000 to 8,000 ninjas that fought, and again, I doubt it was by choice for a lot of them, do this or else. There was a lot of that. So, they were in a tough position. But I fully understand, and I truly believe if it was me, I would have been one of those 100,000 motherfuckers. Please let me get a gun and go back and get these motherfuckers. I like these red jackets. Can I get one of those, pimp? These motherfuckers are nice. I don't need any rest. A little bit of food. We got some. Let's go. We can go now. I'm all for it. That would have been a great time. So in reality, as a black person, there really should. You can't teach history the way that they taught it. It's programming. It's a lie. It's brainwashing. It's bullshit. As a black person, at the time, there is no way in hell, there's a very low probability that you would have been rooting for these so-called patriots. You would have been rooting for the Brits and you would have been trying to get over there. It's a much better deal. James Armisted Lafayette wanted to enlist. Initially, and because I spoke about this and I didn't give you all the details. Initially, I said that after the British forces in the Dunmore Proclamation, which I didn't name it then, but after the Dunmore Proclamation, and they offered freedom, then America had no choice but to counter with the same offer, which they did initially, and then they even took that shit away. So you're getting your ass kicked. You need ninjas or you will not win this shit. And you're still not willing to offer them freedom. Probably fulfill what happened to you, but you're just that fucked up. Yeah, I need you to help me, but after that, I need you to get right back to slaving. America. Even with your life on the line, they still had the same mentality.
I hate niggas, boy.
Enter James Armisted Lafayette. And they, much like the story of Sally and Thomas Jefferson, who raped a child her entire life and they made it a love story, much like that, they really are waxing poetic about the relationship between James Armisted Lafayette and his slave owner. And again, the only reason they went back on the rule that no black people could be in the militia is because black people were killing the fuck out of them and whooping their ass. Again, they had more people than the Brits initially, but I mean, they enlisted a secret weapon. It's no surprise is what was happening. That really should be explained. And again, I jumped off my point again. Before I continue, teaching black children and white children the same history is criminal because it's not true. It's not applicable. If you're alive at that time, you're not rooting for America. Through brainwashing and abuse, some were. Or you at least had to pretend like you were. You didn't. It's not like you really had fucking choices. But practically, you were not rooting for your captor. My enemy's enemy is my friend. If somebody's coming to kill your enemy, well, hallelujah. Won't he do it? Hallelujah. My prayers are finally answered. I'm sure that's what they were thinking.
The truth is for everybody, but everybody might not be for the truth.
I'm sure black people at the time were thinking, my prayers are answered. Finally, after all these years.
That's why I know there's a God.
They were thinking, my prayers are answered. Finally. I hope these British motherfuckers kill these motherfuckers in a heinous way. Even if I end up in the same situation, I still enjoy watching these motherfuckers die. But again, maybe they were like, I'm used to these whites. I don't want to break in a new set of whites. It's a horrible position to be in mentally. So I'm not judging. I'm just looking at it practically. But when they showed up, I'm sure the majority of our ancestors were thinking,
Jesus, wow, come on down and kill that wrong Jew.
I'm sure they were singing that all night in some type of code.
Jesus, wow, come on down and kill that wrong Jew.
So I think it's important to note that for a multitude of reasons, you really wouldn't be on the side of our captors. You would have been with those other cats. Something they left out, and again, to finish on the fucking point, it's criminal for us to be taught that same history. It's brainwashing. It's a lie. You should know that if you were alive at that time, the people that they praise, you would want to fucking kill. You should know if you were alive at that time, that the people they say we were fighting against so we, quote unquote, could be free, which is a fucking lie, you would have joined forces with them. You would have been all about Team Red. You would not have been for the red, white, and fucking blue. James Armisted Lafayette, not only did he want to enlist into the army, which they were turning him down initially, again, until they needed soldiers. But when he did it, he went into it knowing that when he got done, if he didn't get killed, he would come back and still be a fucking slave.
White man just a joy to be around. It smell like lemon juice and pledge furniture cleaner.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough. And that it's hard to grasp that one. It's hard to grasp that one. And again, I'm not necessarily blaming him. Let's just focus on the fact that they need this ninja. They're not going to make it without additional troops. But when you get done, I need you to get right back to slavery.
Who this nigga on that name?
You think you would get freedom for allowing us to live?
Who this nigga on that name?
An extremely conflicting position to be in.
A lot of you house niggas are scared. A lot of you house niggas are scared.
And again, I'm wrong for judging somebody from that time, but let's just really look at it practically. He chose to fight for this side when the other side's offer was much more appealing. So really and truly for white America, and that's the point I'd like to make, if you're teaching history to white children, James Armisted Lafayette is a hero. But if you're teaching it to black children, how do we look at him? Is that a hero? Is that maybe the worst? I'm ahead of myself. Is that a hero or is that somebody you'll look at sideways if you were around at the time? But let's get into James Armisted Lafayette was a spy, one of America's first spies, definitely the first black spy. Again, it was appealing to go to the other side. So what his job was, and I spoke about this, how if America really cared about its true heroes, they would mention him because white America should love this man. A man who should have he should have been a triple agent. He should have double-crossed America and pretended like he was helping them. And then when it's all said and done, he could have killed his damn former owner and kept it pushing. But he was actually a spy for America. It's safe to say that without James Armisted Lafayette, that America would have lost the Revolutionary War. This is the Underground Railroad Show with that Ninja on Spreaker.com. Let me read a little bit of chat and then I'll continue. I'll continue with James Armisted Lafayette, but it's a very important part of history that should not be left out. The same way that everybody, as I know it now, so I think ABM said he knew about Crispus Attucks or Crispus Attucks a lot. I've heard several different pronunciations of his name, but I had no idea that the first person killed in the Revolutionary War was a black man, and they shot him in the chest twice. So America's had that tradition for a very, very, very long time. So when we say that, when we're doing these shows, we're not joking. That's a true American tradition.
You gonna get us in trouble. You black, you live in America, you in trouble. I can't get you in no trouble.
Let's read some of this chat and then I'll continue with James Armisted Lafayette and what he did, in my opinion, to essentially win the war. And I'm not saying that it's hyperbole. James, without the contribution, again, they spoke about the black contribution and showed the numbers were low, but again, the numbers can be low. We're better than you. That's why the Brits were kicking your ass because we went over there, like a lot of us were supposed to. And the only hope that you had was getting help from people that should have wanted to strangle your ass. But let us just continue with James Armisted Lafayette after we read the chat. Got my man Chef Mac Feezy on the train. Thank you for coming aboard, sir. Got Sluggo checking in on vacay. Thank you for checking in, sir. Mac Feezy said, Ninja, in a couple of more months, I will be fluent in Mandarin. Sir, I got a bomb drop you for that. That shit is incredible. When he spoke about that, I was like, this man is learning Mandarin. Is it for a job, just to enrich your mind, just to know? Have you met a young lady? I'm just curious, that type of motivation. I know your brain is probably just wanting some information and you just decided to do it. But that there can be a lot of motivating factors. But is this just something you wanted to do, sir? Is it monetary? Again, is it so you can communicate, with a new friend and their family properly? I'm just curious. Just curious. But shout out to Mac Feezy. About to be fluent and obviously well versed at the current moment in Mandarin. Impressive, sir. Impressive. I'm decent in Spanish, but Mandarin is a completely different animal. And if I was one to read ahead in the chat, then I would know why he did it. Sluggo said, Mac, are you planning a trip to China? Mac saying, Sluggo, yes, I am. China is interesting to me. Okay. Mac saying, Sluggo, they got drones that deliver food to you in China. Yeah, their level of technology and how much they use it is on a different level. Sluggo said, you have to be a shitty country to elect help from those who you enslave. Watch them assist you into victory and then act like they had no contributions. And how about that? That's the other side of it. Again, history doesn't teach us these things. And let me let the bomb drop and I'll elaborate on that just a tad bit. As y'all know, I like to engage in conversations with the whites that aren't necessarily on the surface. It's something that I always do. So the people that I talk to about things like this, it always happens organically, usually around these holidays or just on a random day. So, I received a a text about something that needed to be done, or it was in reference to the 4th. Let's just say that the message was in reference to the 4th, and that's what the conversation was in reference to. And I just stated that, yes, I'm aware that, the company will not be open on that day. So we're going to get everything done by that Thursday in recognition of your ancestors' Independence Day. Just stating an historical fact. The reaction was somewhat like,
"What the hell did you just say?"
But that should be normalized. And again, initially, it was looked at as offensive, or almost looked at as if I was the one with the issue, as if I was some type of racist for not putting myself in it. But I'm not a part of that. I wouldn't have been rooting for you. I would have been mad as hell that the Brits lost. And what happened to the 100,000 ninjas? Well, you know what? I'm ahead of myself. But yeah. But that's the other side of it, is that the contributions are hidden. They don't teach any of this. So if it was truly about just the love of the country, you would talk about all the black people for which, if not for their contribution, this country wouldn't fucking exist. Country wouldn't exist without their contribution. So I find their so-called patriotism insincere, because in reality, especially after I finish talking about James Armisted Lafayette, throughout history, in present time and in the future, nobody's more patriotic and nobody is more dedicated in their faith than black people. It's not even close. White people are extremely fragile when it comes to their love for the country. They lose elections, they start killing people. And I'm speaking about the past. That's why a lot of those massacres occurred. Something else they left out.
Come on, man, that's a brittle spirit. That is a brittle ass spirit.
They lost this election and threw a tantrum. They don't love the country. The only thing they're consistent about is violence and ignorance. Love of the country is not it. It's the convenience. They love it when it's convenient for them. But considering this motherfucker's not on fire as a result of our actions, as a black person who, again, we're not the same, it has to be looked at differently. I am disgusted and appalled by white people throwing tantrums about this country. It's insulting. You can complain to other white people, perhaps. To a black person, you sound really stupid. You are stupid, by the way, but you sound incredibly stupid complaining about this country. Unless you're complaining about the bullshit that we're going through. But you can't complain about somebody you elected. You can't complain about losing the damn... The shit that they complain about and the shit that we're essentially tolerating, if I'm going to speak French and say we, it allows me no empathy, just disgust when I see it. But at any rate, let me keep it pushing. China, interesting. Sluggo, read that one. Mac Feezy says, Sluggo, I found out for quite some time that America is full of shit, especially when it's propaganda against other countries. We can bomb drop that one too. It's, again, if you understand the country's history and their present, and you hear them speak about other countries and how they treat their citizens, and again, you're black, you're like,
What? Nigga, please.
The fuck are you talking about? As I said before, I think black people are the people, a small percentage of white people, and black people, for the most part, are the few that have a true look at the country. Most white people are so blind with what they like to label as patriotism that the country can, no matter what the country does, they're cool with it. Because for the most part, it doesn't affect them. So they turn a blind eye to anything the country does. If the country feeds them a story about another place, they believe it. When the country was against Russia, you saw them goofy ass movies where we were always fighting Russia. Even that corny one where the Russians just invaded and took over a high school or some dumb shit like that. But it's always been propaganda. As a matter of fact, the Russians, that might have been the last time they feuded with somebody with similar pigmentation. For the most part. At any rate, I digress. Just interesting though, McFeezy, but true. And let me continue with what I was going to do. That's true. Okay, for instance, like if you go on a little trip or a cruise or something like that, they always tell you about certain areas and it's sketchy and be careful. And I know, like, and I haven't done as much traveling as a lot of you have, but through enough traveling and understanding, I've found out, or I realized that they're essentially, if they were visiting America, they would be talking about the areas that I frequented and or grew up in and say the same shit. So I always looked at that, with a grain of salt. I usually get around when I, get on one of those situations. I'm in town, I'm doing shit, and I've always had fun. So I mean, it depends on the said person's perspective. And we understand that this motherfucker's not all roses. So them shitting on another country is kind of, you have to take that with a grain of salt. But preach, Mac. As Sluggo said, preach, Mac. McFeezy said, Ninja, it was actually twofold, as the British were still involved in the slave trade. Black people were on both ways, or in it both ways. You know what? You're right. You know what? And great point.
You're a goddamn genius. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160. You are goddamn gifted.
Involved in the slave trade as well. They already had some black people fighting for them again, probably by force, same way they were doing. But as a tactic, they enacted that. So, great point. That is true. And I did not mention that part. That's why I was saying, I mean, do I want to deal with these whites? Do I want to stay with the whites I know? Do I want to fuck with the ones with the accent and these little red jackets? It's kind of stylish. The accent, that's a little, it's kind of cool. It's a little weird, but, it's interesting. Who do I want to deal with now? Well, how do I want to do this? It was a hell of a damn position to be in. So as McFeezy was saying, and as I was saying before, it was a hell of a position to be in and a hell of a quandary I wouldn't want to be in, because they're essentially, when I said, do I want to stick, I'll just stick with the whites that I know, their perception was, I'm either going to be enslaved by these whites or those whites. These whites could be worse. Fuck it, I'll just stay with these motherfuckers. Let's not forget King Leopold sent his army, and forgive me for the pause, not the Sudan. God damn it. The Congo. He sent his army. They killed over, God damn it, damn near 1 million Congolese. Over 500,000 or 1 million Congolese. So it's not like these motherfuckers are angels. So it was a tough position to be in. So a great point, McFeezy. So again, that's what makes that decision so difficult. And again, that's why I think it was a brilliant strategy to say, if you come over here, we're going to give you emancipation. Would they have kept their word? Who knows? But that was the offer. And I got you, McFeezy. So black people were screwed both ways. Facts. Ninja, was actually twofold, as the British were still involved in the slave trade. Black people were screwed both ways. And great way to articulate that and give all the details. All I said was, do I want to stick with these whites or the new whites? And that's essentially the problem. I'm probably just going to be enslaved by them. I understand this situation. Fuck it, I'll just be here. So again, as he said, screw both ways. Terrible position to be in. But once offered freedom, I might as well go for it. And if not, I mean, I guess I'll just die trying to kill these motherfuckers. But I might as well go for that offer. I don't have anything else. It's the best offer on the table. It's the best offer on the table thus far. Coming aboard the train, his usual bomb drop for slapping the sauce out of his wife's hands when she tried to apply it to my ribs. Real talk, true story. We got none other than the great Sidney Jackson on the train. Sluggo said a lot of those ninjas wanted to appease their slave masters and probably hoped that they would gain favor. Great point. I thought about that as well, but I'm not going to short y'all with these bomb drops. But great point. I had the thought that
Size go over here and fight them British folk. Master like me even more. Maybe let me eat high off the hog. Maybe stop fucking my wife on Friday nights. Eyes fight for you, master.
But great point, sir. Great point. It's a terrible position to be in.
You black, you live in America, you in trouble. I can't get you in no trouble.
Great point. McFeezy said, I wouldn't trust the Brits either. They're just as bad. The Opium War is a prime example. Again, y'all dropping bombs. Great point. The Opium War was it China, right? And when China wanted to discontinue it because they could see how fucked up they were, they essentially, told them no and kind of just started knocking motherfuckers off when they resisted. And there were other aspects of it, but China was so addicted to that shit. And I don't think it was Japan or Tokyo. I'm pretty sure it was China. They were so fucked up and addicted to opium that they were curled up on the street with an opium pipe. Like it was normal just to see Chinese people curled up on the street with an opium pipe. That was like a normal scene because the addiction was that bad. So the opium trade was a motherfucker. And again, as I was saying, it might not have been all roses, but it was a terrible position to be in, and that's the best offer at the time. It was a shitty damn position to be in. Matt Feezy saying, preach, Sluggo. It's the white savior mentality that those ninjas have and still have. And again, even in that situation where it couldn't be more clear cut, the slightest suggestion or the slightest sign of humanity would make you look at this individual as if he's God Almighty or he's the greatest white person you've ever seen, because the other ones are so heinous. If this individual shows you any humanity, you're probably, through that physical and mental torture you're going through, you're probably going to end up looking at this individual in comparison to the rest as some type of good person or something to that effect. I mean, you're going to end up there. You can end up there through what you're going through. So I think it's that when somebody just shows the slightest bit of humanity in the midst of that, in the midst of this inhumane treatment, they were given that look just at that time. It's just like when well, let me not go there. But yeah. But agreed. I don't think you could have trusted the Brits either, but I still would have been going for that side at that point. I didn't have anything better going on where I was at. But if I get a hold of a fucking weapon, to quote Tupac, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I'd rather die in war than die in fucking enslavement. Fuck it. It's fucked up either way, though. It's a terrible position to be in. Sluggo said, hindsight is 2020. When the Redcoats attacked, that would have been a great time for a large-ass rebellion. There's no way America would have survived. They wouldn't have. So again, it might have been bullshit, but it's a brilliant tactic. And I'm sure that's what they told them. They're not going to free y'all, but why would I care what you think? I'm sure you haven't been the greatest motherfucker in the world. I'm sure you sold off a couple of my family members. I'm sure you might have attempted to call my wife back to your chamber. I guess I would have died that day. Tried my best. But yeah, it's hell of a spot to be in. Hell of a spot to be in. But a pretty smart strategy on their part. And honestly, surprised. I'm sure it did work to a degree, but I'm surprised it didn't go the way they thought it was going to go. I'm surprised it didn't. McFeezy said, I am learning because I am inquisitive. So allow me to demonstrate the skills of Shaolin. McFeezy said, I am learning because I am inquisitive. So allow me to demonstrate the skills of Shaolin, the special technique of shadow boxing. What Mac Feezy is telling me is I don't have to have a money-making venture or a female companion from that culture to engage in knowledge. That's you, Ninja.
What? Nigga, please.
No disrespect. I apologize. Seek knowledge, sir. Feed your brain. Again, extremely impressive. Extremely impressive.
You're right. It's fact.
Mandarin's a motherfucker. And I love to know that shit because, I damn sure eat Chinese food. I love to know what they're actually saying. That would be great to see the shock on their face. Or better yet, be smart and patient and never say anything. Just see how they really feel about you. Just see how they really feel about you. Some don't even hide their expression. I digress. That's personal. Let's move on. Mac Feezy said, black people on all sides. You had the Patriots, the Brits, the French, and the Spaniards, all whom were still involved in the slave trade. Facts. Because the French actually joined with America at the time and helped them defeat the British forces, who I think were teamed up with the Spaniards. But facts. All involved in the slave trade at the time. But again, to keep from dying and losing their position, I'll sacrifice that for now. And again, it might have went that way, it might not have. But, bunch of ninjas with guns and weapons. They probably rather start capping y'all than them. I mean, I feel you, though. It's a bad position to be in, but in a no-win situation, I'll take that position. In a no-win situation, I'll take that position. Because you weren't fighting for them anyway. Which reminds me, I need to go. You weren't fighting for them. You weren't fighting for America anyway at the time. So it wasn't part of their militia. It wasn't going to hurt them. So it's not like if they got you to come over, slaughtering you wasn't going to help their position. So they probably had to use you. So at least in that moment, you might not have known what the future holds. But in that moment, I would have liked to have been on the attack. And Mac Feezy echoes, black people were in a no-win situation in America. That's facts. It's not like the shit was beautiful.
Woo! Jesus.
It's not like it was the end-all, be-all, but considering, I find it hard to believe that I wouldn't have leaned towards the British side at that point. They might be lying, but fuck it, let me go find out.
America.
And you probably saw some ninjas fighting for them anyway. Now, again, some of whom I'm 100% sure were enslaved, but you saw enslaved people with weapons getting to kill white people. It's still like, yeah, I kind of like that. I don't know what's going to happen afterwards, but right now, in this moment, I like that. Let me get some of that.
America.
Sluggo say, yep, Mac, and somehow we still couldn't get on code. Nope, still couldn't get on code. Back to James Armisted Lafayette. He was a spy. So what James Armisted Lafayette would do was go to the British side, act like he was one of the escaped slaves who wanted emancipation. He would pretend to be a spy for them because he was from Virginia. He knew the terrain. So he was just being a spy for them when he was really a double agent. So he would feed them bad information and then go back and tell the so-called patriots what they were going to do. And that can be downplayed if you're really talking about history. And again, for America, they should revere this individual because without his contribution, they would have lost the war. As this was spoken about, perhaps the most significant contribution that James made. No, it wasn't perhaps. The British were going to attack Portsmouth, Virginia, with 10,000 troops. That had to be a large portion of their forces at that point, probably a lot of whom were former enslaved people in America. But they were going to send 10,000 troops to Portsmouth, Virginia, basically kind of close to Yorktown, Virginia, on some sneak attack type shit. James Armisted Lafayette, being armed with disinformation, gave them some misinformation, found out about this, alerted George Washington in time for America to join up with the French, form a blockade, catch them off guard, causing them to eventually surrender. So that contribution was not minor. Without that, who knows what happens in that situation in that battle if they catch them off guard. I'd say James Armisted Lafayette won the war for these motherfuckers. And again, which is a conflicting position to be in. So for white America, he's obviously a hero because they wanted to win that war and found this country and all that good shit. As a black American, again, understanding that's an impossible position to be in. Why I'm calling this the conflicted hero. I understand why America would look at him that way. But as a black person, practically, perhaps one of the worst damn people, one of the worst ninjas in history, if we're kind of... And again, this is in conflict to what everybody's saying in the chat. The Brits weren't any better. But my enemy's enemy is my friend. It would have been a different battle. I don't know how that shit would have went. I doubt they would have said, okay, y'all take the country and we'll tax the fuck out of y'all. I don't know how that would have went. It probably could have been the exact same shit. And I think that probably would have ended in bloodshed and they just would have had to work the land themselves. But I'm not saying that shit would have been beautiful, but practically, that shit could have went a completely different way. Perhaps the few white sympathizers that were around, perhaps they were made slaves. Perhaps they were killed as prisoners of war. Perhaps they said, fuck it, this is y'all shit now. We're going to be around too. Here goes some taxes. Perhaps it was that. Who knows? It could have went a bunch of different ways, but the one thing I can say for certain is that the context in which we receive history is so inadequate and so insulting that I'm infuriated every time I learn anything because it's in direct conflict with the things that I was taught. And again, as much as they would like us to be bastardized versions of them, which would help the country move smoother in their eyes, it's not practical. If you want to get this out of the way, you have to talk about it, get over the discomfort and the pain and whatever it is, and then you can move on. But you can't move on saying, I don't want to hear about it, I don't want to talk about it, doubling down and accusing the people that do want to talk about it of being racist and or holding up progress. So the ancestors of the people that committed these acts, again, deciding how and when it's talked about is crazy. And as a result of that, we don't know about people like James Armisted Lafayette, who really and truly won the war for them, which is which honestly is, I don't know how I feel about that. Despite the Brits and the French and all the rest of these motherfuckers not being shit, I don't know how I feel about that. Because at the time, just imagine, and again, going back to what I said in the beginning, I think it's important to note that he was born a slave. And because he was born a slave, that was all that he knew. He didn't have a sense of himself. He didn't know that there was civilization where he was from, that they brought their knowledge here to this shit. He had no idea. I doubt that there was anybody around. They started breaking up families and the farms and everything that they were doing is so you wouldn't have a connection. That's why they separated families. You could raise this motherfucker up from a youngin', and this is all that he knows. So I think it had to be somebody like that to buy in to that degree. Or again, I'd rather stay with these whites than fuck with the other ones. But at least 100,000 plus of our ancestors felt like, I'm going to try out this whole emancipation shit. I'm going to try that out. It's better than what I got here. So although it was probably just a military ploy, it was a better situation and it was a better option. Better situation and a better option than what they were currently dealing with. Now, after James Armisted Lafayette did this, shout out to America. He then returned to the plantation and to his master and continued. So again, James Armisted Lafayette won the war for these motherfuckers. And afterwards, as was agreed before he signed up to do this shit, he went back to his damn plantation with his master. and continued to be in bondage. Now, they said that so casually. The British surrendered October 19, 1781 as a result of the information from the double agent and the spy, James Armisted Lafayette. So you can feel how you want to feel about that. I'm definitely conflicted. But one thing I'm not conflicted about, America should look at that man as a hero. If not for him, you don't have this shit. You don't get to, write the history and give all these false pretenses and all these white heroes that if I was alive at the time, I would have wanted to kill very loudly, violently, and publicly. So it's definitely a conflict, and it's definitely wrong to be taught this. And again, it's not something that we get enraged about, but it should be. And just as a side note, when I speak about people in positions to talk about it that I never see raising hell about it, they have the ability to get on social media, go on shows. Why wouldn't you bring this up? What can they possibly say about you saying they leave out historical facts? I should play that Bill Cosby clip. I'll find that at the end of the show. But I don't see anybody in that position saying anything about our history being erased. And I know they're not going to promote it, but people have the ability to put that out there on their own. And a lot of people in these positions, I don't see anybody saying anything. Any black person or white person for that matter, saying anything about the fact that they're rewriting history at the behest of their children's feelings, allegedly. But again, the one thing I'm not confused about is that if they truly love the country and wanted to talk about how it was founded, you can't leave out James Armisted Lafayette along with the Rhode Island Regiment and a lot of other black people that contributed, regardless of how you feel about that. Without their contribution, America doesn't win this war. And again, their reward for that is to be lost in history, purposely. 1781, he returned back to slavery. 1783, the Virginia State Assembly passed an act that granted slaves who fought as soldiers their freedom. So 1783, they passed a law saying that if you fought in the war, you could have your freedom. 2 years after the war ended. But they said that James Armisted Lafayette was not a soldier because he was a spy. Therefore, he did not qualify for his freedom.
America. I hate niggas, bro.
So the motherfucker that won the war for y'all can't get freedom because technically he wasn't a soldier? He was just a spy? Ooh, you motherfucker.
That's a lie! That's a goddamn lie!
You gonna get us in trouble. You black, you live in America, you in trouble. I can't get you in no trouble. You black, you live in America, you in trouble. I can't get you in no trouble.
This motherfucker was a double agent. They finally damn freed the slaves and damn help. I guess they got maybe a whiff of humanity. I don't know what the fuck they was doing. Maybe they was worried about another revolt. They should have been. Because these niggas had military training. You weren't going to help them out. You still going to do this shit? Man, let's kill these motherfuckers. That's really what all of those so-called progressions were about. They're about to kill us anyway. Let's give them a little dose of damn freedom and shit before they take us out. You saw what they did when they gave them some guns. I don't want to deal with that shit again. So it was not an act of mercy. They didn't all of a sudden find, quote unquote, the Lord. I seriously doubt that. I know you wasn't the war force, but freedom?
Who this nigga on that name?
I found it interesting that at this time they were trying to paint the picture that his master was such a great guy because he wrote the assembly and argued that he was a soldier and talked about what he actually did. But if he was such a good man, why the fuck didn't he just give him his goddamn freedom anyway? He didn't have to write them a letter about anything unless he just wanted him to get his pension, which I think was available then. Unless he just wanted him to get his money for fighting in the war, which he deserved. Now, I could see that. But as far as his freedom, that motherfucker had the ability to do that. Wasn't that good a guy? Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
You blind motherfucker.
After writing them in 1784, they gave James Armisted Lafayette his manumissions in 1787. As a token of thanks, now again, they're giving, his master credit for writing the letter. And again, this is 1783. 4 years later, they gave him his freedom. And James Armisted was so grateful, he adopted the name Lafayette. That's why his name is James. That's why his surname is James Armisted Lafayette. He adopted the name of his former slave owner because he was so grateful for what he did. And again, in the midst of a bunch of savage white people who all had different accents and shit, it was good. The quote unquote good white folks was that depends on who you were. That was a shaky situation. It was very much subject to judgment because when you're dealing with savagery, again, the slightest act of humanity makes you look at this motherfucker like he's semi-decent because everybody else is that much worse. So I guess maybe that was one of these situations, or at least that's what it's painted as, especially if he wrote the letter. But again, he could have freed the motherfucker, so it's conflicting to me. James Lafayette did receive his freedom in 1787. He got married, raised a family, bought a farm in Kent County. Now, even though they finally gave him his freedom, 6 years later? He got his freedom 6 years later. 6 years later. Got a farm, got married, had a family. But for 27 years, he did not receive an annual pension. So again, shout out to America.
Motherfucker.
No annual pension. For the individual that won the Revolutionary War. No annual pension, no mention in history, and a story written. It's written in very Disney-like framework in the story about the owner and how he eventually did get free and he died a free man. Yes, he did. A free man that didn't get his annual pension for 27 fucking years. It was 1819 before he finally started to receive a pension. And what I found interesting at the end of the story, and before I go with how they ended everything, again, just to reiterate, the only point is that if it was truly only about the country, they would mention these people, but they don't, because if you do, you can't tell the white hero story. But the truth is, the white heroes were insufficient. And without the contributions of black people, these motherfuckers would have gotten slaughtered. What was going to happen afterwards, that I can't say. But I can say for certain that without the contributions of black people, like James Armisted Lafayette, these motherfuckers would have gotten slaughtered. And in return, their gratitude is, you were a spy, not a soldier. We'll hold you for about 6 years before we actually give you your freedom. And then we're still not going to give you a pension for 27 years. That's how grateful they were. So again, I'm not saying the Brits would have been better and the rest of those motherfuckers were any better again. The Spaniards were horrible. I just spoke about what the French people did in the Congo. Was it Spain or was it France in the Congo? Forgive me for pausing on that. King Leopold. It was the French. But or was it? It was the French or it was the French. It was France or Spain. I'm leaning towards France. But point being, I know they weren't shit, but I'm just saying, even after all of that, shit, 6 years to finally get his freedom, and 27 years to get his annual pension, when his contribution meant more than the majority of all of the white people that were in that damn war. His damn contribution meant more because they weren't in a position to do what he did. They couldn't infiltrate the enemy. And again, have the mentality to do what he did. So I'll just reiterate in closing that historical proof and irrefutable evidence shows that regardless of how you feel about it. And that's another story for another day, but black people are more patriotic than white people have ever been and will ever be from the fucking beginning of this shit. And from the beginning of it, it's been downplayed and disrespected. Like the memory of James Armisted Lafayette, who, again, as a black man, hard to call him a hero, but again, the conflicted hero, I think conflicted in his mentality at the time, but he didn't have a lot of choices. And I'm conflicted in how I want to review him in history. But America should not be conflicted. There's absolutely no doubt that in American history, this man should be a hero. But he isn't mentioned. And again, without his contribution, they have no shot. The perception is that in the times that we're in right now, in the situation that we're in, we all need to come together to fix the issue. In reality, the only thing that is going to save America is the only thing that has always saved America. Black people, if we choose to do so. Truly appreciate you coming aboard. Let's take a ride. This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. Thank you for coming aboard and rolling with me. Truly appreciate it. Oh, give me a quick pause. I apologize. Let me give you this quick replay. I will be right back.
Ninja, I think you are close.
You say this every time. You say this every time. What am I close to, sir? What am I close to? What am I close to, sir?
You know, it's a Bible passage where Jesus said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will hear my voice, I will eat with him, and he can eat with me." You are there. He is knocking on the door.
Hey, Randall, listen, man. I respect you enough. At current moment, lost cause, man. Don't waste your time on me. Don't waste your time on me right now. Lost cause. Let me get a little bit older and realize my mortality, and I'll do like everybody else do. Oh, so beautiful. Come to me.
No, I'm just saying, man. No, I just look. Even as microphones pick up everything. That's all I'm gonna say. So.
You a wild boy, sir. I appreciate you, though. I appreciate you. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I think, Sluggo brought up something, and I'll follow back up when you get to the chat. But you had said something about you like the concept of rebirth. And there's actually a parallel in in Christianity. It's called being born again. It's a similar concept, but you don't die, like physically die, and have to come back as something else. It's like, the best way to put it, the analogy is that you die to your old ways, and it's like God breaks you of the old things that perhaps had you wrapped up, and he gives you a new life, and it's the change that I was talking about. It's called being born again. Being born again. I'm sure, in your 40-some years of life, you've heard that phrase time and time again. But it's a similar concept.
I recall that phrase. You're speaking of being a born-again Christian, correct, sir?
Yep.
When someone realizes their woes, they dedicate themselves and their lives to change. They become a born-again Christian. So essentially, washing the blood, all that good stuff, correct?
That is correct.
I do get that. I've ran across born-again Christians, and it's been a good thing. There have been other times when it was aggravating. Like that person you used to kick it with, and they want to call you and tell you about how they, like this. I want to see the old version of you. But, it all
I'm serious. I don't. You should have hollered at me before you saved. What's the point of this? I'm sorry. I'm just saying that. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. But when we're speaking about that, we're talking about somebody changing their mindset and trying to walk a straighter path. But again, hearing that, that's essentially what they're speaking of as reincarnation. Again, to me, if we're gonna do fairy tales or do very improbable stories, well, I might as well go with that. I come back as whatever. You know what I'm saying? If I don't do right, maybe I come back as an animal or some bullshit. But I'm not burning in fires. That's all I'm saying. If I'm gonna pick and choose my fairy tales, let me choose something that make me feel better. I don't like the fire. Give me that version of reincarnation. Give me that, and give me another chance to get to nirvana. Rather than being stuck. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ninja, the thing is, all of your problems it always seems like it's related to what you see other people do. And I'm just asking you in all sincerity, okay, let me put it to you this, and this is what I wanted to mention to you before. I've been in the process since probably 2012 of detoxing from American Christianity. Like, I got saved in 1989. I was, 22, 23 years old.
Good God.
With a life that you're living presently in Huntsville, Alabama, apart from some things, is what I was living prior to, back before 89.
What life is that, sir?
What
life is that, sir? Hey, lack of details only help the wicked. What life is that, sir?
The love and marriage, Huntsville life. And to the chat, y'all didn't tell me that Ninja was out here living that single life. I had a conversation with Ninja earlier today, and he's sharing stuff, and he's like, life is going well.
Stupid! Yes.
So I said, so man, am I going to see you on this love and marriage Huntsville? He's like, no, sir. Well, you know how he talks. Well, actually, there's a possibility, you know how
No, man, don't see again. See how he's giving out this misinformation. All I was saying is there's a slight chance of a camera glance if I was in one or two spots. That's all. But as far as being a cast member, 0%, sir.
I didn't say
camera glance.
I said you might randomly show up. I already told you. Ninja got his starch jeans on. Like, hey, how you doing? And then I found out that Amy Amber came out and didn't talk to him inside Starbucks. Came out to the parking lot. What's been going on in 2025?
Hey man, this is an inside conversation. What the hell's going on right now? That's what's the inside. See how Christians do? See how they do? That's
I've been
exactly
trying that, man. I got to get these jokes off, man.
Hey, listen, like I said, it was happenstance, but nobody would believe it. I was doing that show with the greatest, and just one of them just came out and had a casual conversation with me. But the timing was impeccable for jokes. It was impeccable. To quote 334 Bama, Amy has made an appearance.
Oh man!
Do you mind if I catch up on some of this chat, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
This is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, That Ninja. I apologize for that. Couldn't be helped, but let's continue with the chat. And again, I thank you for the feedback. I thank you for the back and forth. Truly appreciate it. But as I always talk about around Colonizers Independence Day and a day of indecision, a day of conflict for Black people, a no-win situation, but definitely a day of conflict. I'm left with many things. I'm not left with the nostalgia of the red, white, and blue. I'm not left with, what a great country and what a backstory. I'm not immersed in, I'll tell you right now, I bleed for that goddamn flag. And I'll set fire to any some bitch that got something else to say about it. You understand, then? Goddamn it. I love this country. I'm not in that particular mentality, but it's a point of conflict because what comes to my mind is that my ancestors weren't free at that time. What comes to my mind is that the history I was taught was complete bullshit that was designed to develop a certain mentality in me. What I come away with is that if they truly cared about it, why are you leaving out the black people without to whom slow down? Why are you leaving out the black people that without their contribution you would have had absolutely no chance to be victorious in the Revolutionary War? It all comes back to a certain image and narrative that they want placed. And it always has this type of white hero complex type thing. But in reality, such is not the case. But again, it would not fit their narrative. And mentioning any of these people would cause further research, and it would cause their tower of lies to fall. And now that the information is readily available and being talked about, they're making it illegal, allegedly at the behest of their white children's feelings. There are a lot of things for us to be infuriated about, but if every person in some type of leadership position that is black is not really, that's moral, but especially this black, if this is not in their top 3 of priorities, that's something I need my candidate to talk about. That's in my top 3. That's, you know what, I digress. Let me move on. Let me see here. Sluggo saying, yep, Mac, and somehow we still couldn't get on code. Mac Feezy was saying, Ninja, you made a good point. We should have fought with the Brits, then turned on the Brits because they would have been stretched financially after the war because they were fighting conflicts in Europe. So their military would have been stretched thin. You know what? Great point. But again, like I say, I mean, we were in a position mentally. Can we really trust these motherfuckers? So for all we know, that was their plan all along. For all we know. Because can you really trust them? Considering your history with people with this particular pigmentation. And then I'm eventually going to talk to some of these other black people. Yeah, they ain't shit either. I'm actually homeboy slave. Oh, for real? Okay. Hey, what you think about blah blah blah? I agree with you, sir. And I think practically, you got to remember, there's nothing new under the sun. If you look at this for what it is, put yourself in that position, and as best you can, think about your mentality if it's you at that time. And if you actually go there, it's a little uncomfortable. But if you think about it, just practically, it is infuriating is just not a strong enough word. But preach, sir, preach. The military was stretched thin. That's a great point. Their military was stretched so thin that they tried to recruit all the ninjas that they could because they needed them. And as a result of this, there was also the chance of revolts and them losing people. You know what I'm saying? And the part that they want to talk about is they understand the potential. Bigger, stronger, faster, smarter. They're probably going to be better soldiers. We better get some over here, and we'll deal with the fallout afterwards. But I don't want to die at the hands of this musket from these other motherfuckers. So fuck it, we'll deal with them after the fact. But you're right. Afterwards, it might have been immediate. It might have been immediate. You see a ninja start to gather, holstering their weapons and shit. Y'all want to do this now, or it was a rough situation to be in, but they were stretched thin. And as proof of this, they were recruiting ninjas. You have to be stretched very thin to enact the Dunmore Proclamation. To enact that, you were in a desperate way. Sluggo said, passing along that intel definitely turned the tide, and America thanked him by mostly leaving him out of history. Yeah, facts. I don't I don't recall anything I don't think I heard anything about James Armisted Lafayette. I could be mistaken, but growing up, if they mentioned him, it was in passing, and they definitely didn't tell us he was a double agent. Because there's no way you can bring him up. You can't bring him up without getting into too many things. You can't talk about the lack of pension, him gaining his freedom. What do you mean he gained his freedom? So when did it stop? When did it start? What was going on? He gained his, so there were other people still slaves, but he wasn't. How did that work? How many slaves were there? How come after the war they didn't stop? Black people help. How come? It's too many questions. Kids are inquisitive, so they just took it out of the curriculum. From a wicked aspect, I know why they did it. I just don't know why there's not more outrage about it. That's all. McFeezy says, Sluggo, they reluctantly gave him his freedom. Reluctantly. They did after 6 years. After 6 years. Sluggo said he went back to the plantation with a bunch of question marks. Yeah, he went back to the plantation.
What? Nigga, please.
He went back to the plantation. Yep. America.
You rotten bums! You're all garbage! All of you!
Yes, sir. He damn sure did. He damn sure went back, sir.
Confused, bewildered, lethargic.
America looked at James Armisted Lafayette and said,
I need a nigger. I need a nigger.
And he went with it.
I need a nigger. I need a nigger.
It's I don't know, man. It's that's one thing. Again, the conflicting hero or the conflicted hero. He might not have been conflicted at the time. Probably not, considering he didn't, turn into a triple agent, but or however you want to say it, double spy, whatever the hell as well. If he didn't really, really flip it. Instead of doing that, he came back and was giving them the real shit and telling America bullshit. But I mean, this. And again, they had to trust his word. If they would have bullshitted and not believed him, the motherfuckers would have got the drop on their ass. So obviously he was highly trusted. This shit is interesting.
A lot of you house niggas are scared.
It's hard to say. But again, in one hand, hero, but at the same time, you could look at him and say,
sick, help, sick, help.
It's a conflicting position to be in. Hard to judge considering what they were dealing with, the position they were in. It's hard for me to judge. But I could understand either position. Well, from a Caucasian perspective, or somebody that's really bought into America, yeah, you should admire that man and look at him as a hero. I'm conflicted. Personally, I'm conflicted. I understand at the same time, damn, nigga, shit. Did you have to do such a good job? Could you have just been okay at your job? You didn't have to be that damn good at it. Like, he could have did the job, but maybe not just that good. You didn't have to be that good at it. He could have just done like an okay job, semi. He could have did a bad job. That's all I'm saying. He could have did the job, but just been a little inadequate. Just leaving out some things here and there. He was way too damn good at his job. He was way too damn good at his job. That was really the issue. That would have been a damn great time for him to be insufficient and inadequate, but unfortunately, he excelled at his job in that situation. And that's unfortunate. But again, he should still be a part of history. If you're actually claiming that if you actually claiming independence and patriotism and all that shit, you can't leave out the people that essentially gave that to you. So again, it all wears back to the same thing. And if you don't talk about it, it's going to be what it is. It has to be brought up. They can't be in charge of things. They're going to give you a bullshit version of everything. It's bleached. It's whitewashed. It's made to push a certain narrative. And that shit's working. Matt Feezy said after reluctantly, oh no, I read that one, my bad. No, after reluctantly giving him his freedom, America gave his master reparations. That's after America. I mean, they gave his master reparations for losing him. I'm pretty sure of it, but they gave former slave owners reparations when our ancestors finally did get their freedom. They were released into nothing. Slave owners got reparations because, they lost their slaves.
Bitch, are you for real?
McFeezy.
You're a goddamn genius. You must have a goddamn IQ of 160. You are goddamn gifted.
Sluggo saying facts, Max. Sluggo saying he learned the hard way. Sidney Jackson said crackers been cracking ever since they crawled their unwashed asses out of the hell spreading their evil and foul on Sidney Jackson coming in hot. Sidney Jackson coming in hot. Boy, you stupid.
The truth is for everybody, but everybody might not be for the truth.
Sidney Jackson said crackers been cracking ever since they crawled their unwashed asses out of hell, spreading their evil and foul on us.
The truth is for everybody, but everybody might not be for the truth.
I'm sorry, you have to be but the subject of the subject of the bathing habits of the whites has come up on the show for years, and it's just shit's funny if you're aware. Oh, Jesus Christ, Sidney. Quote, crackers been cracking ever since they crawled their unwashed asses out of hell, spreading their evil and foul on us. Boy, you stupid. Oh shit. Oh, sorry. This is the Underground Railroad Show. Oh, somebody boy that ninja. God damn, he's stupid than a motherfucker. Oh shit, Max said pre-Sydney.
Amen, preacher.
Sluggo said pre-Sydney.
Amen, preacher.
Sluggo said Dr. Anderson told us about the meretricious manumissions law, aka snitching law, to gain freedom. Yeah, again. So again, you have, and thank you for that, man. Thank you for that.
Amen, preacher.
Lack of details only help the wicked. People weren't just doing this because they were dumb or they weren't shit or scared. This was a way to get freedom, and when you're in that fucked up situation, it's hard for me to judge those individuals. This is hell. I see a way out of hell. I can see a free motherfucker just living his life. I want some of that shit. And it wasn't fucking roses. You're still there with savages. But it was damn sure the next step up. So there were certain motivations, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't just bitch ass niggas selling out and all of that. There were motivations. So thank you for that reminder. But yeah, facts. Preach, sir.
Amen, preacher.
No, I said that wrong, Matt Feezy. Matt Feezy said James Armisted Lafayette did become a slave owner himself. No, I said that wrong. Belgium, that's Germany. Oh, that's right, because that was the early. Okay, Mac Feezy said King Leopold was the king of Belgium, when the atrocities of the Congo occurred. Okay, thank you, sir. So that's okay. That's right. That was like the what they called a test run for the Holocaust. But and again, it was no, it was a Holocaust because that's what you call something like that. But they didn't deem to they call it different things when we're involved. But thank you for that, sir. Sluggo said, right, Mac, and he's never brought up in the same vein as Hitler. No, never. Sydney laughing at that skit. There's always somebody that didn't hear that shit, so I always throw it on. But just wanted to talk about James Armisted Lafayette again. On the side of America, history, contributions, like that show, like Quantum Leap, the Great Quantum Leap, who I think most of us are familiar with, where he go back and end up changing some monumental event that changes the course of history, and he has to fix it and or do something to send it back to where it was going to go. It's safe to say that this was one of those moments. Had James Armisted Lafayette chose to go to the other side and make America think he was helping, but he was really sending them to their doom, who knows what this country would look like right now? Who knows what the history books would say? Who knows where we all would be? I just find it interesting. But that's definitely one of those moments. A number of things could have happened to change the flow of things, but what James Armisted Lafayette did was crucial because, number one, a white person couldn't do that. If he went to the other side, he would have been killed. But it's believable. It's believable that a black man would want to get the fuck away from them, fight for the Brits, and get an opportunity to inflict harm upon his former oppressors, even though he's unsure about his future. So it's believable that James Armisted Lafayette wanted to do that. He was in a unique position to do so and actually executed this quite possibly against his own self-interest. Because again, he went back to slavery for another 6 years before giving freedom, and then another 27 before getting his pension. And by the way, I'm sure life was just a nice, smooth breeze and just a joy in the 1700s in America, even as a free black man. I'm sure that shit was quite fun to do. And I'm sure it was a great time. I'm sure.
Yeah, the white man.
I mean, it was better than being enslaved, but it's not like the motherfucker was down living a sweet life. But an interesting part of history that could really invoke a lot of conversation, but that's not the conversation they want to have. And it's criminal. It should be talked about. It should be an issue. And honestly, anybody I'd vote for or want to get behind, this would have to be something they want to talk about openly in the campaign. Something they're going to say they're immediately going to change when they get in. It's criminal. It's criminal. And something should be done to teach the real history if you actually want to progress. You're not going to progress just trying to inflict your will. That shit's not going to work. And from the aspect of Black America, I guess I couldn't blame you for whatever way you chose to look at this individual. I mean, he could be looked at as a hero. He could be looked at as one of the worst ninjas that ever lived. But either way, I think his actions, considering the time, are somewhat understandable. Can't judge somebody living in a damn situation, but I damn sure scratch my head. James Armisted Lafayette, in actuality, true American hero. Series Underground Railroad show hosted by your boy that Ninja. Couple of football notes, and we're probably going to get into the cows. Now, I'm still. Let me make sure. Hold on. Show notes for a reason. I might do one of those. I don't know if I want to do both of those. I'll do one. And maybe two of them. Few early narratives. as you know, football junkie, so I'm going to talk about football all year round. Few notable things. This is old at this point, but I've forgotten to mention it for about 3 straight shows. And let me make sure. Let me make sure. Because now I'm pausing. I want to start there, but let me make sure. And okay, now I remember. Nick Chubb, who's rehab well, the Browns decided to let him go, and I don't think I mentioned yet. Nick Chubb to the Texans. To the Texans. So the Texans now have Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. And I think that I don't think Nick Chubb is done yet. And if you're talking about being the option along with Joe Mixon, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch. Because he still has something in the tank and he doesn't have to carry the load. Even after Joe Mixon had his leg jumped on by the God, what team was that? Oh, I got him in my head. I can't. It wasn't the Cow. Who the hell was that? But that linebacker jumped on his damn knee. He was having a hell of a season at the time. He would have been right there with the top running backs. He had to stay out for a while. He damn near played. I think he played in that game some more. Sat out for a while. Came back just as strong. Got his legs right back up under him. And I look for him to be the same guy when he comes back. But the Nick Chubb edition, it's a quiet acquisition, but I think it's significant. You can't have enough of a good thing at running back, and those are 2 premier running backs. Nick Chubb coming off an injury, but with the technology, with his work ethic, I think that's a safe bet. And again, you get to see people work out. You can do things to, stress or see how well he can operate off that particular knee. And I'm sure they've done their due diligence. And again, not having to carry the load as he did the majority of the time in Cleveland. They did incorporate other running backs, but and at one point when I forget, golly, they had 2 good running backs. They did kind of switch the load up, but he still got the majority of the carries. You have to be top 3 in the league year after year. And that's not the role he'll have to be in. And I still think he has a lot left in the tank. So nice acquisition for the Texans, who again weren't pretty last year. It wasn't aesthetically pleasing last year to watch the Texans. Defense got better and better as the year went on. By the end of the year, they were one of the top defenses in the league. Offense was uncharacteristically or disturbingly inconsistent for a multitude of reasons. Personnel, defense catching on. I mean, it's hard to say, but I can say one reason that wasn't talked about enough. The offensive line and the protection for Stroud. He just didn't have time to make that read and let the ball go without somebody being in his damn face. Until the playoffs, when they turned it on and became better as the season went on, and the referees, in my opinion, snatched the game out of their hands when they were pretty much in Kansas City's ass. Unfortunately, that was the blemish on the playoffs last year. So the Texans are a damn good team that had one of the top defenses towards the end of the year that were playing their asses off. And C.J. Stroud got familiar with who he had left on the field, and that offense started making it happen. It was unfortunate that the game was kind of taken out of their hands. We just didn't see it play out on the field. That's unfortunate, but I think the Texans were robbed a little bit in the playoffs last year. They had a shaky season, not really a pretty team to watch, very underwhelming, not getting a lot out of the offense for the majority of the season. But again, when the playoffs hit, they turned it on. And it's hard for me to put that loss on them. That was there was interesting officiating in that football contest. I'll leave it at that. Point being, C.J. Stroud, 2 years in the league, 2 playoff runs, at least 1 playoff win each year. Not a bad start to DeMarco Murray's, DeMeco Ryans, I apologize. Not a bad start to DeMeco Ryans, C.J. Stroud, and former Alabama linebacker. Need my ass kicked. I know I could go to the phone, but I'd rather exercise my brain. God. Will Anderson. So nice start to their careers along with the rest of their teammates. A lot of unfortunate things happen injury-wise, but nice start. I think they could have did a little more last year. The first year, they just kept losing receivers. He just didn't have anybody to throw to in that last game, and they played a really tough team. This past year, I feel like the game was snatched away from them, unfortunately, and they still managed to compete. That was very shaky, very, very shaky. But nice start for the career of Stroud, Texans, Ryans, Will Anderson. I mean, all of these individuals are doing well. Again, as underwhelming as you thought C.J. Stroud looked, very good numbers, very solid year, and a very nice start to his career. So I look for good things from the Texans, and that's a nice addition, underrated addition. We'll see what they do with their draft picks, their acquisitions at the receiver position, which they got very thin for a multitude of reasons last year, especially that tragic injury to somebody who was just getting their legs up under him. And unfortunately, it happened because one receiver decided to break his route off, try to catch a ball that wasn't for him. It looked to me like he just changed his route and tried to go get the football. If you go back and watch that play, he ran into homie, and that's what really made the injury that more fucked up, maybe even caused it all in the first place. I don't know if that individual had the opportunity to stay with the team after that. Cat a receiver, you could see the potential, but boy, that was a bad move right there. Yeah, Sluggo, I think that's a good pickup. Sluggo saying the Texans are getting stronger. Nick Chubb's a good pickup. He's not done yet. They just Browns are not invested in him anymore. I was talking to the light skinned wonder, the angry black man, and at one point he brought up some type of list. Them and these lists. You can always make a list if you don't have anything else going on. And there's always outlandish things on the list. I haven't even looked it up, but there's a couple of things that he said that stood out. And one thing in particular I wanted to expound upon. One is that Jalen Hurts, I think, was like at number 8 or number 9. And they had Justin Herbert ahead of Jalen Hurts. So again, as I spoke about history and them being incapable of telling the truth, because it's going to take an individual, a Caucasian individual of high morality and fortitude for the fallout to speak truthfully about history and also speak truthfully about the perspective of the average colonizer and how no matter how much the evidence is to the contrary, they're not going to come off of their affection for certain players, whether it be because of how they look or maybe more logically or more, this wouldn't be more respectable, but if you want to take that out of it, if they choose somebody, they're not going to say I was wrong and this individual is actually better. So the person I said was going to be good is actually average, and the person I said that was one of the worst picks in the draft is actually one of the best picks, and he's probably got an opportunity to play for a lot more titles. They're not going to say that. That takes integrity. That takes professionalism. That takes proper upbringing. They don't have any of that. They can't, because it just doesn't happen when they're commentating on the game of football. So they still make these lists and have somebody like Justin Herbert ahead of Jalen Hurts. And the narrative is so obvious. There was an article a while back that, again, 3 or 4 shows, maybe 5, I just didn't get around to bringing it up. I don't need to look it up. I'll tell you what it said. It says, Harbaugh says, quote, "We're the problem with the team, not Herbert." Saying myself, the coaching staff, the rest of the team, we're the issue. Justin Herbert is just fine. We're letting him down.
That ain't true. That's not true.
Who told you that?
That ain't true. That's not true.
Who told you that?
When it comes to being a leader, taking advantage of your weapons, taking advantage of a great defense, tall, fast receivers, a stock team that he had for years prior to Harbaugh being the coach. When it comes to reading the defense, progressing, getting better, leading your team, taking them to the promised land, not turning the ball over, being that draft pick that you've been projected to be named in the top 3 or top 5 quarterbacks every year, but never showing it. When it comes to that, Justin Herbert only had one thing to say with his performance.
I don't know how to do none of that shit. I don't know how to do none of that shit. I don't know how to do none of that shit.
Top 3. Ahead of just, not in this list, I don't think he was top 3, but ahead of Jalen Hurts, who's been to 2 Super Bowls, played great in 2, won 1 because the defense showed up in that one. And you still won't come off of this Justin Herbert shit? When I say fragile, I mean fragile.
White man just a joy to be around. They smell like lemon juice and pledge furniture cleaner.
So despite the evidence to the contrary, despite everything that you see that shows you that despite your projections and your desires, Justin Herbert is just not that guy. Despite all of that, you're still going to put him ahead of a Super Bowl winning quarterback who you just can't admit is better than you projected? As I've always said, in any aspect, they're going to be biased. Judicial, municipal, meaning the police force, in education, which is obvious, an inherent and natural and sometimes overt bias is what you're going to deal with, even with those who are well-intended. And you can't talk to them about it because they take offense and actually call you racist when they're the ones being racist right in front of your eyes. But again, to not be able to admit you were wrong and say, basically, I had it reversed, which they always do. Who was it? Andrew Luck? Once in a lifetime. Great quarterback. Who was it that they were trying? Whoever they kept saying was that person, all the crazy shit they were saying, once in a lifetime and all that, that was Cam Newton. But they wanted it to be Andrew Luck or whoever it was at the time. And they wouldn't come off of it. And when they did, that wasn't special. Admitting the truth isn't special. Let me not go off on a rant. But point being that despite what's happening in front of them, despite all the evidence, despite winning the Super Bowl because the defense decided all we have to do is stop Saquon Barkley, we don't have to worry about this ninja. Despite all of that, you still shitting on this man by putting Justin Herbert ahead of him, simply either because of the way he looks or because you picked him in the beginning and you're not going to come off of it. Really?
Come on, man. That's a brittle spirit. That is a brittle ass spirit.
Stop it.
Come on, man. That's a brittle spirit. That is a brittle ass spirit.
Quick summarization on the teams I'm looking forward to seeing. College and pro things I'm looking forward to seeing. And I think I've mentioned it before, but I'm not sure. I don't know if this has been a casual conversation or one I actually had on the show. I actually cannot recall. I'm not sure. So fuck it. Things I'm looking forward to seeing. The New York Jets. Obvious reasons, new head coach. I like some of the moves that they've made. And something that really stands out to me is when I saw the article or the press conference from the offensive coordinator. Him and the head coach went out to go get Justin Fields and show them that they actually wanted to use him. And what stood out to me was what Pittsburgh did and basically saying, we'll take you or leave you. We're still not going to dedicate ourselves to you. We're going to give you a little bullshit contract. I guess because they wanted to go after elderly white man for nostalgia. I'm not sure. Very disappointed what Pittsburgh did, but let's stay with the Jets. Looking forward to seeing what they do next year. Another team that if there's a quote-unquote big turnaround, it's not shocking to me. Not as bad as they were made out to be, but the team was being put in a very bad situation when every year you don't address the quarterback position, there's liable to be a problem. There's liable to be some locker room issues. There's liable to be low morale when everybody can see what the issue is and you refuse to admit it and or fix it. And that's what the Jets did every damn year. And that cost them that opportunity, that window, and that particular coaching staff in their tenure. They never addressed the issue, and that was the quarterback position. I like the fact that they sought out Justin Fields, went and got him, showed him how they were going to use him, talked about the packaging, gave him a contract that showed that we're dedicated to you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that because, again, I like the pieces on offense. I like what they have on offense. I like what I was seeing with Detroit. I like the fact, again, that the coach is probably going to give him an opportunity because he's a ninja. But again, because they sought out and went after Fields, that tells me they're actually serious. You can put them not in the same lane. I hate lame comparisons, but if you want to talk about a team going and getting the person they want, despite dumbass reports from these so-called experts, I tend to notice that. Philly did that when they took Jalen Hurts, and the media wasted no time in destroying them for that. Same way they did with Dak Prescott. And regardless of how you think, in comparison to the way they were talking about that man when he came out, he's outperformed every single person he was drafted with. Not even close. Half of them aren't even in the league or they're backups. None of them have been better than him. Not a damn one. They were dead ass wrong then, as they are every year, because they're inherently biased or that's just their position. Which is why I say that they obviously have to have a certain look on the field to even want to watch the game. And that, ladies and gentlemen,
Come on, man, that's a brittle spirit. That is a brittle ass spirit.
I got to have a long pause. No matter how long I pause, for whatever reason, the soundbite still runs into it. Let me keep this brief because I started late. No, it's late on the East Coast. But I'm looking forward to seeing the Jets. I like Fields at quarterback. I like what I believe they're going to do. As the OC said, a lot of people talk about his attributes, his size, his speed, but, he also has an arm. We're going to take advantage of that. We're going to utilize all his tools. And we have a lot of things we want to do with him. And that was encouraging for me to hear. They're not most black quarterbacks don't get the opportunity when they get half a chance. People that don't pay attention don't really know how it was in Chicago, how he didn't have weapons most of the time, how the play calling was actually horrific. I never knew that Ninja was that fast. The only reason I found out is because they ran him all the fucking time. They weren't trying to throw the ball. And I submit to you that the same thing that Jaden Daniels did. You know why Jaden Daniels was able to do that? They gave him a fucking opportunity. Justin Fields at no point had an opportunity to do that his rookie season, which he didn't play much anyway, or his second year when he finally got an opportunity to play. They always like to talk like he was playing his rookie year. No, he wasn't. He got in a few games. His second year, when they finally did play him, they were running the shit out of him. I never knew he was that fast. They were running the hell out of him, as if he couldn't throw the damn ball. I submit to you that Jaden Daniels would have looked the same way if they never would have let him throw the goddamn ball. Obviously, Fields could have mixed that in and been deadly just like him, but they didn't mix in passes. They didn't have a good game plan. They weren't smart in how they used them. It was almost like they were trying to sabotage him, and no matter what they did, he still excelled. I'll just break the rookie rushing record and dominate that way. Oh, you're going to let me throw a little bit? You're going to give me one good receiver? We're going to show out. Oh, I'm doing too much. They show out for 2 or 3 games. Okay, let's take the ball out of your hands and only throw it 8 times in 3 quarters. They at no point were they invested in Justin Fields. Opportunity means so much. And I think if you look at Jaden Daniels, the one thing nobody talks about is they didn't baby him with that bullshit tagline. No, you have to bring him along. You have to bring him along slowly. You don't want to put too much on his shoulders. Play it safe in this situation. After a while, they shut up with that shit. I don't know if they were saying that or not. I don't got the volume on. But they didn't do that with Jaden Daniels. You know what they did? They played football. What a novel fucking concept. Let's just play football. How about we not worry about how long he's been here? We're going to put a game plan in here that matches his skill set, and we're going to go. How about that? Jaden Daniels showed out because he's a bad boy, but also because they gave him an opportunity and didn't put him in a run it up the middle, short, throw the ball short of the first down, come off the field. Announcer said, "Great job. You don't want to do too much. Let the defense play." That's all bullshit. That's a scared coach using that as an excuse to not play football. The fuck is he on the field for if you don't think he can throw the ball? Fuck out of here. Once you get over your ego and we need to do this and right Eagle Scout Brown 20, all these long ass unnecessary calls so you can feel good about your shit. Motherfucker, simplify this shit and get to the football. And I think more teams that are smart along those lines are going to be more successful. I just think the Fields never got that opportunity in Chicago. Got to Pittsburgh, got it a little bit, but I've never been in love with any of his offensive coordinators. I think I might like this one. It's hard to say right now. It's early. It's pie in the sky. But I'm looking forward to seeing the Jets, who had pretty good defense. Again, I think there were a lot of things that went into how they were playing overall. When your offense never does anything, defense isn't going to look that good. Don't be surprised if the Jets are doing a little bit more than just hanging around next year. But I look forward to seeing Fields get what I feel is his first real opportunity with a team that actually believes in him and is invested in him. I look forward to just seeing how that's going to go. It's going to be interesting. So I look forward to seeing that. Along that note, Garrett Wilson has been signed to a 4-year deal. Just a little insurance, not insurance, but just letting them know that they're keeping him around. And that's the thing about it. Garrett Wilson, and I need my ass kicked for forgetting other receivers. He has some nice receivers there already. This is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing him with those receivers, that game plan. You can look at what Detroit does and amplify that shit. It's what Detroit shit would look like with a guy like Hendon Hooker at quarterback. So it should be interesting. You already have the ability to run the ball. You have a quarterback that can deliver the ball. You have good scheme. That's going to be nice. And when a team's searches or goes after you, that means they're actually going to use you properly. So I'm happy for Fields getting this real opportunity. Another team I'm looking forward to seeing, and I mentioned that before, the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's kind of it's not, I don't know how much is being talked about. I can't imagine. I think it's Penix being the starter all year round. I think that's a very underrated story. Very underrated story. Him being the starter from the jump, that being the program from the beginning, catering to his skill set from the beginning, the team knowing what it is from the beginning. Y'all are an entirely different team. I really look forward to seeing the Falcons. Hopefully, Raheem can improve on his clock management in a couple of situations that I saw. But what y'all have offensively is going to go. And I love what y'all did defensively in the draft. We need to see it come to fruition, but I have no reason to think that those acquisitions aren't going to improve what you already have, enhance your line and your team. I like what the Falcons did in the draft. I like what they have with Michael Penix at quarterback, the way that the offense moved just in the short time that they had that was way too late in the season. Coach. But with him behind the helm for a full year, Atlanta's going to be must-see TV on offense and hopefully on defense with those acquisitions. Again, the one guy out of Tennessee, the only other sub 4-4 guy, I think, in the draft at that position, edge rusher, is going to enhance my man on the other end they picked up from the Cheatriots that was getting all the attention. Picked up a good interior lineman. His name escapes me right now. But they did a lot of good things on defense to address the problem areas, which has been the pass rush for years, at least the last 3 drafts, and now seemingly doing something to remedy and rectify that issue. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on defense if that works, how they're implemented, and I'm looking forward to seeing a full season and a full off season with Michael Penix. It's going to be interesting. I think it goes without saying the Baltimore Ravens had a great season. I'm looking to see what the OC does if he progresses even more. I can't argue with the results, but I felt like they could have done even more offensively if they were a little more consistent with the creativity, aggression, using no, I always pause on his name. Tight end that's stuck on my man, but homie's the number one tight end. Came from Coastal Carolina, I believe Sluggo said, but his name will pop in my head in a second. But when he's a mismatch, he has wide receiving skills at the tight lock. Is it Lockley? But his name is escaping me right now. But they really have to utilize him more. And there were just so many games where they just didn't do that. But if they just play that where you have a Derrick Henry just having a dominant season, and you take advantage of that with the passing game, if they just continue to be consistent with that, they're going to continue to be a tough team. And you have Lamar Jackson, you have a defense that really played well last year. After making adjustments, after losing key pieces, I thought not re-signing Jadeveon Clowney was a mistake. There were so many plays where last year, just a little side note, there were so many plays where they had such a good design and it worked so well that Lamar Jackson would drop back after the play fake and looking the shit off, throw the ball, and start running off the field with his hand up. He wouldn't even watch the catch. That's how well the play was designed and how confident they were rolling at one point. And, we all saw the playoffs, a lot of things that went into that. And after all of that, hell, if homie makes the catch again, going to Andrews instead of, I need my ass kicked, but going to Andrews instead of the second year tight end, maybe third year now that really clearly Isaiah Likely, who's clearly shown himself to be an asset, I would have went back to him in that situation as opposed to the nostalgia of Andrews at this point. Not saying he's not a good tight end, but you have a better player over there and you're reaching for nostalgia. But looking forward to seeing Baltimore as well. So the Jets, the Falcons, Baltimore. I'm leaving out some obvious ones. I think there are like two more that are real obvious. Houston Texans, who fired their offensive coordinator. I know what that defense is. I'm confident the coach is going to keep that going. I'm interested in seeing what they're going to do on the offensive line because they let go of Laramie Tunsil, one of the best left tackles in the league, who is now and that reminds me of the other team, who they let go, and I don't understand that. Different division, not in the AFC, but I don't know, bro. I don't know about that one because they had a hard time protecting Stroud last year, and your answer to that is to not have a draft that was. They did a little bit in way of the line, but to let go of Laramie Tunsil, I didn't see enough in free agency or in the draft. Not to let Tunsil go. So a team that had a hard time protecting the quarterback last year got rid of one of the best left tackles in the rid of one of the best left tackles in the league. So now we have to wonder what the new pieces are going to do. So I'm concerned and interested in seeing that with the Texans. I'm not sure what they were thinking offensive line-wise, which was with their main issue that, again, they kind of got together during the playoffs because they managed to keep them kind of clean enough to run the offense, and homie was on the shit in the playoffs. So, man, interesting. But I'm interested in seeing the Texans offensively. I think they'll be consistent defensively again. Will Anderson, I think, is going to continue to be a monster, but I'm interested in seeing if they adequately made moves to protect C.J. Stroud and to see what this new offensive coordinator is going to do. I'm not sure. I don't know if I blame the OC unless he didn't address the offensive line. I'm not sure what the issue was, but I hope there's something in particular or something strategy-wise this guy had. I hope I see a improvement or something that tells me why they fired their OC, which I didn't see coming necessarily. So hopefully I'll see something that shows me why they brought in a new guy. So I'm looking for the change in the offense, some type of improvement, what their additions do, but mainly the OC and that offensive line. I'm not sure what I have with that. I don't know if they did anything to address that line, and I'm not really sure why they fired the OC. I'm not really sure why they fired him. I'm not really sure. I always slip on this. I believe this is my main. This is Raider for Life. What's going on, Raider for Life? Thank you for coming aboard. Hope you are enjoying the ride thus far, sir. Yeah, Raider, I agree. I think Justin Fields is in a good place. If you take what Detroit does and put the skill set of Justin Fields on it, it's gonna be nice. He's proven it when he really hasn't gotten the opportunity. Now give him a chance where he's not fighting the team and fighting the play calling and all of that dumb shit. I'm gonna enjoy seeing this. I'm glad he's getting that opportunity. It doesn't happen for a lot of guys that I think have had similar skill sets, and they essentially get thrown away. And I hate that. It happens a lot. So I'm glad he's getting this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it. Cough button. My apologies. Raider was saying getting away from Arthur Smith is a big deal. The Jets wanted him. I agree. I was mad at Pittsburgh, but at the same time, even though at times he did surprise me, he did better than I thought he would. Speaking of Arthur Smith, he did better than I thought he would. I wasn't impressed, but for him, at times I was pleasantly surprised because I expected him to do a lot worse considering his track record. I felt he wasted a lot of opportunities. He didn't take advantage of all the field's tools at times. At times, he made great plays, and 3 seconds later, a flag would come out and take it away. Just coincidence or whatever. But there were a lot of amazing plays he made that a flag always came out and took it away. Threading the needle, all type of nice plays, but they were few and far in between as far as opportunities to do things like that. One thing he did more of when Russell Wilson came in is he used my man from Georgia, 6'8" tight end. But they got the other guy that they always talk about. But they got a 6'8" monster on the other side, and they started incorporating both of those guys, which is a really smart idea, especially if you're paying attention to the other dude. He was killing them. And he did that a lot with Wilson. And, that's just something they did a little bit with Fields, but he wouldn't break it out all the time. It was kind of weird. You can obviously run the ball, mix in that tight end, take shots. If it's not there again, you got that tight end that really can't be guarded anyway. There's so many things you can see, like you can work this offense, and it's like you choose to bog yourself down. If I remember correctly, I think there were plays. Was it Fields or was it somebody else whose coach kept putting them in that? No. That's going back to college. That was Florida State. But yeah, looking forward to seeing that. And he's in a good place. He's in a good place for sure. Caesar Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, that Ninja. I'm not going to keep y'all late tonight. Translation. I started late. As a matter of fact, let me double check. Checking the Cow Awards right quick, as well as debating on a couple more of these. But they're, and again, the other team, they're about two more, but one more in particular, and this is probably in my top three. If I had to do a top three things I'm looking forward to seeing, Jets, Falcons, and this team. The Washington football team. I almost said it again. It's instinct at this point. The Washington football team. I probably want to see them just as much as anybody. Just because initially they came out, I have to give don't know why I'm pausing on this cat. Second sentence, they head coach, D coordinator, Seattle, Dallas, need my ass kicked. I'll be there in a second. But I had to give him a lot of credit because in his second stint again, he kind of pieced together the defense. He surprisingly had a very good line, or at a bare minimum, a very well coached line. Because Jaden Daniels had opportunities. He had time to execute the play and deliver the football. And when it wasn't there, the line wasn't broke down to the point where he couldn't at least buy time or make something out of the play the majority of the time. It's not Dan Campbell. That's the tight end. That's like Carolina or somebody. What's that? I could Google the shit, but y'all tell me in a second. But he did an excellent job. Should have been coach of the year easy, but got robbed in my opinion. But I'm looking forward to seeing Washington because they picked up Laramie Tunsil from Houston, so protecting Jaden Daniels, even putting the emphasis on protecting him even more. They had God Almighty, they had a very good acquisition at running back that I can't remember right now. They did some things in the draft, but they did something at running back that was notable as well. But they picked up Tunsil. Oh, they picked up Tunsil. They have Deebo Samuel, who looked good with average quarterbacks in San Francisco because they wouldn't let Trey Lance play. Imagine what he's going to look like with Jaden Daniels and a McMillan at the receiver position. The other receivers that were there that now can be big time number 2 receivers when you have 2 number 1s like Deebo and McMillan. Tight ends that are already effective. The things they picked up in the draft and in free agency. I can't remember, but something significant at running back happened, and I can't remember right now. But they got 2 viable, but something significant at running back. And again, able to address things in the defense that was almost a makeshift defense that played quite well. No team was coached up more. And I felt that way before their playoff run, but nobody saw that coming. Minnesota's winning coach of the year. To a degree, I get it, but all that's showing is he has excellent talent on offense and defense. Well, excellent talent on offense, excellent coaching and talent on defense. Brian Flores was having Brian Flores is what fixed the defense. Offensively, they have a pretty good scheme, but they're trying to bank this on pretending like Kirk Cousins was some type of world beater. If he was, he would still be there. That's a system, and more importantly, that is top-tier receivers and tight ends and a line. And a nice system that man executed and had a good year for the first time in his career. But to make him coach of the year, it's so conflicting. Why? Because Kirk Cousins isn't there? Because Sam Darnold did it? Y'all love Sam Darnold. So what makes him coach of the year? Y'all love Sam Darnold. So what's surprising about it? Y'all have always liked him. What's the problem? How is he coach of the year? Not in a year where Washington didn't do that, sure. Not that year. Not this past year. Not with what Washington's coach did. Not with what he did. That team came out of nowhere, and if not for the Eagles being on top of their game, those motherfuckers almost made it to the damn Super Bowl in that man's rookie year. Incredible job by Washington. Looking forward to seeing them. Deebo Samuel, McMillan, the other 2s and 3s that were there right now who I can't remember that were already contributing. I think they picked some up in the draft for free agency, if I remember correctly. That's going to be nice for a team that was already letting Jaden Daniels play. How open you think that playbook is going to be in the second year? Kingsbury is still there. I think whatever opportunities he had, he turned down, or maybe he didn't have any, but Kingsbury's still going to be there. I can't imagine how aggressive they're going to be this year. This is going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing Washington. I think they're going to be a nice team to watch. I don't think it was a fluke that they made it to the NFC Championship. So, and they're going to be better personnel-wise. We'll see what happens with the season, but I know they've made improvements on offense that make it hard to believe for me that they're not going to be better offensively. I find that hard to believe. So those are probably the top teams I'm looking forward to seeing. I know I'm leaving somebody out. I'll go through my mental Rolodex right quick. maybe in the I'm sorry. Yeah, I did leave out the Colts. I'm trying to see what's going on with Richardson and what they're actually trying to do. Of course, the media is always going to say Daniel Jones and whoever else isn't a ninja, but looking forward to seeing Richardson. Hopefully, he can stay healthy because when healthy, I believe he's been effective. And again, he has improved on some of these throws that he's missing, but I just like to see him upright all year. And what his progression would be like if he was able to do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Cam Ward. Cam Ward in Tennessee, that's the other thing. Cam Ward, I'd imagine, is going to be the starter. And again, they lost some pieces, but prior to that season when they were wasting time with that draft pick, was it Levis or was it a different? It was Levis, right? Yeah, when they were wasting time with Levis and he was leading the league in interceptions, they had very good personnel. So I mean, it's they lost a receiver or two. They lost one for sure, but if they have that same scheme, that same defense, and the same plays where people were running open and Will Levis was hitting defenders right between the numbers, and so did the backup after a while, it's going to be interesting what Cam Ward to bring to that team. I'm interested in seeing that, what type of offense they run, what type of weapons they have. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. I fully expect Cam Ward to be in the starter, and if he's in the same situation that the quarterbacks that I saw for Tennessee are in, he's probably in a good place if they're dedicated to doing what they need to do because the offense was actually working. Their quarterbacks just, Will Levis in particular, just couldn't get the damn ball where it needed to be, despite all the mayonnaise commercials and shit. So looking forward to seeing those teams. Where we at here? This thing has a weird ass refresh. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I should save that. Maybe. I don't think I want to do that one either. And this is the Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy that ninja. I don't want to leave one of those. And I don't that one. Oh, and the only other thing, and this again, this is something that would have been mentioned then. And I have a lot of things, and I'm gonna hold off on the cows. I'm gonna hold off on the cows. I'm gonna give you a bonus show to make up for last week, and I'm gonna do them then, mainly because I got several from Dexter as well, and I don't have them incorporated and ready. And a little late on the East Coast. And again, I want all of y'all to get this cow work. But I'll address Kirk Cousins, and it was posted in I think our group chat and in the message group, and I think on the Underground Railroad show page maybe. No, it was posted in our message group. And Kirk Cousins, in short, said that Drew Brees taught him to never let your backup get in the game. So as a result of not wanting that to happen, he knew he was hurt, but he still continued to play. So he wants to use being hurt as an excuse for the way he played. And he wants to try to justify it by saying he was just being competitive. And this is what, one of your greats told me that I should do. If I hadn't lost respect for him before, I lost it after that. Because that's what I come away with that. So you're actually trying to give an excuse for the way you played and justify being a selfish motherfucker that cost the team games and position. They were still in position to make the playoffs, and they should have. And there were things to be critiqued in that situation. But they would have been a lot better off if he was just in 2 games earlier. I say 4. Honestly, he should have been a starter from the beginning of the year, if you ask me. Again, when you say you can't do that, I think it's more of a cliche. I think a lot of people would say that about Jaden Daniels, and they like to act like it was an exception. Don't get me wrong. He's not the average guy. You just don't get a Jaden Daniels. But Michael Penix is not fucking average, and he did not have to sit that long. But again, I think that's when you get into politics and management, whoever it was that really wanted him to the degree that they paid him that money, they wanted to see him on the field. And that kind of cost the Falcons, if you ask me, they could have gotten into the flow of the type of team they would be with him a lot earlier. Should have happened a lot earlier, in my opinion, because I think he's that type of cat. But, but again, that's why I'm looking forward to seeing him all year. I just don't think that's a small deal. Those are going to be some things I'm looking forward to seeing in the NFL. And if I just throw in one college note as I close it out, Ohio State. I'm not sure what we're going to be. Now, we're going to have talent everywhere. And I actually like, in comparison, let me say that. And this is on the outside looking in because I don't know what he's going to be when it comes to being a play caller. But usually a former wide receiver that turns into an OC likes to air it out somewhat. It's just in his nature. So Brian Hartline being the OC now, I like that a lot more than Big Back Kelly, to be honest with you, who I thought did a terrible job all year, and it got turned on in the playoffs, and it's just hard for me to believe that somebody that didn't make adjustments all year all of a sudden made them in the playoffs. There had to have been some assistance, some suggestions, some we're going to do this instead of that. There had to have been something because if he didn't make that adjustment before the game against that school up north, I have a hard time believing that he put his hat on and said, let me get in here and work something out. So I actually like Brian Hartline being the OC in comparison, but I don't know what he's going to be either. I don't have a reference point. I'm not sure what type of style of offense he wants to run, but I do believe that most receivers that have an offense usually like to put it in the air a little bit, but we'll see. I'm not sure what we're going to be, though, because I know that the schedule, which from what I understand is going to be similar or if not the same, the schedule had a lot to do with what we were able to get off. The talent saved us a lot of times. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I didn't have much faith in Chip Kelly, so I'm not – this is Hardline's first year, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure, but I'm interested in seeing what we're going to be. But at the same time, the schedule allows us time to progress, but that is up in the air. I just need to see that on the field. I'm not sure what we're going to be as a team this year, but I'll find out soon enough. And I don't know. It's hard to say. Allegedly, that's probably why they brought him in, but allegedly saying is going to be the starter. Never really invested. Never really invested in the freshman last year who left and went to South Carolina, and Air Nolan. I just hate the fact that we've turned into a team that didn't want to utilize that. And I kind of hate that he went to a team that I don't think he's going to get a real shot to be the starter, despite how well he plays. That would be, I don't know. I don't know. That's one of the only things that bothers me because that my team contributed to that man not getting a real shot. Then he left and he stayed in D1 and even went to the SEC, but he went there with a team that had a quarterback that's the same classification as him. That man was a freshman, same as him. He just got to play. So I don't know about being over there. I don't know. Maybe he's going to show enough to try to make another jump, but I hate that for him. That man should have been playing early, but he has time. I just hope he gets the opportunity to play somewhere. CZ Underground Railroad Show hosted by your boy, that Ninja Man. I appreciate it. I'm trying to give y'all the day of the bonus show now and make sure I'm not lying. Thursday, 5 Central. Thursday, 5 o'clock Central. Thursday, 5 o'clock Central. If it happens earlier than that, I'll let you know. Thursday, 5 o'clock Central, I'll give you the makeup show. We'll get into the cows. Got a few more things I want to get into. And I want you to hear all that BS. Not BS, but some of these things that have to be read. I want to make sure everybody else has to deal with the same type of discuss. Man, appreciate y'all. Appreciate the back and forth. Hope y'all did enjoy whatever fellowship and kickback that you had during Colonizers Independence Day. Hopefully nobody messed up the barbecue. Hopefully nobody left the potato salad out in the sun. And hopefully you were in refuge from the rain if you were in the area where it went down. So appreciate y'all, man, for the back and forth. I'll catch y'all Thursday. Abbreviated outro. I'll catch y'all next time. Take care and be